go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Random Hour. As always, I am your co-host Devin Moore, and Kyle can't be with us today because he had a work emergency. But as always, he leaves me alone, so I always find somebody to fill in for him. It might be somebody permanent, or it might be our new VTuber boss. You just never know what's going to happen. And I have a special guest with me today with Harker McNair, and I'm going to give her the floor to introduce herself. Go ahead.
Hi, I am Mandy Harker from Harker McNair, and I write books. I've written 3 books, almost 4, and we are developing a television spinoff of our series Super Serial, and it's pretty dark comedy, and that's what I spend my time doing.
Right on. All right. Well, I'm gonna dive in with the first question. We are a nerd, pop culture, and sundries podcast. What are some things you nerd out about?
Books, obviously. I love books. I love dark comedy. I love dark comedy movies. I love comedians. I nerd out about books all day, every day, pretty much, because that's the world that I live in. And that's what I do in my spare time. I read and write. And it went from being a hobby and then blew up into a whole career pretty much overnight, it feels like. But yeah, that's what I nerd out about.
Awesome. Yeah. My wife. Oh, I forgot to say this. My wife is a big book reader, and we've got like 7 bookshelves in one side of the house in our living room. We're about to add an 8th one, and I'm like, golly. And I'm a big Marvel fan, so it doesn't help that I collect. And it's funny, it's right here, right next to me on the bed. I'm trying to build a Spider-Man collection, so this is the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2 of all the first run from the '60s.
Wow, that's in great shape.
Yeah. No, it's just a reprint. I got it from I don't know if Books a Millions is in Idaho, but we've got Books a Millions in Georgia scattered in Florida. So I picked it up for there for like $10.
Oh, wow. I'm familiar with it. If it is in Idaho, I'm not sure where I live so far away from anything. like like a classic reclusive weirdo writer. That's what I do.
Right. So Kyle can't be here today, but this is a question he wrote for you. He goes, "What is your go-to serial killer fun fact?"
Ooh, that's a tough call. So we base quite a lot of our serial killers on actual real life serial killers. So we've done a lot of really bizarre, really strange research. I would say that I have like extensive knowledge of what liquids are flammable and what isn't. And we've spent a huge amount of time talking so our developmental editor is a scientist and a physicist, and she's worked in a lab forever and ever. But we spent so much time talking about what, like, if human fat would be flammable. If you were to like, would it increase the flammability of something? The answer is yes. So there you go. That's our really weird, creepy fact that ended up being in our second book.
Oh man, listen, I have a joke and I'll share it with you that I'm working on. I got to tune it up a little bit. But so me and my wife at night we'll fall asleep to, serial killer documentaries, and it'll always sometimes. We've been married, we've been together for 5 years. We're coming up on our second wedding anniversary, but every once in a while it'll still get me, and I'll hear, and the joke goes, in 2002, little Jimmy liked to rip the heads off his teddy bear. And I woke up and I was like, excuse me, he liked to do what?
Yeah, that's tame for us. The initial kind of thought process when so we start our first book is like not on brand for Harker McNair at all. It's dystopian, sci-fi, young adult. It's very seriously toned. And after some time on TikTok, we were like, we're gonna have to come up with something that is a little bit more on brand for us. So we were like, we were thinking of all of these really crazy, funny ideas, and then my brother was like, we should do something with serial killers, but they're all just really bad at it. Because we're
Right.
like, they're because in real life, obviously, serial killers are super creepy and obsessive and have all sorts of issues. But we were thinking it would be really funny to do a book of if they were like personas more than they were like celebrity style, and they were just, and there was this really ragtag team of just serial killers, but they were really bad at it. That's kind of the premise for it. I we do draw from the creepy elements of actual real life serial killers, especially when we delve into the psychology behind maybe what some of these people are thinking or how they became serial killers or why. um, Especially our book is really written from the perspective of the marshal. Uh, he's a corporate marshal because it's a corporate run society, and the corporations they go out and they capture teams of serial killers that compete in a battle to the death. And that's what the series is kind of about, but it's written from the vantage point of the marshal. And so he spends a lot of time trying, in the first book, especially in Super Serial, trying to decipher how to capture all of these serial killers and how to figure out where they are. So there's an element of mystery in the first book as they hunt serial killers. And we actually paid a lot more attention to how serial killers were caught, as opposed to the psychology behind what they do, because the books are written from the vantage point of the marshal who captures the killers. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Let me ask you this: is there a ninja in there that just throws ninja stars?
No, there's not a ninja. So our protagonist is the marshal, and then he has kind of like, it's like a grumpy sunshine trope. He has like a really sunny assistant. That character is based on my own kids because I really wanted to write an autistic character that was actually autistic and
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily kind of a media portrayal of autism. So we wrote in Floyd, and Floyd always carries a ninja star with him, just for protection. And it's actually like, it actually turns out oddly to be kind of a big element of the series, because at key moments when they're in these battles trying to capture these serial killers, he'll like whip out his ninja star, and he always has his legs like very athletically splayed, and he says ninja star whenever he throws his ninja star, so he's like ninja star. So he just happens to have a ninja star, but that is our ninja star character. And he's like, so Super Serial is basically a sporting event, in this fictitious world that we created. And the story is focused around Team Dipship, and it's SHIP, just so we're all clear, Dipship, and it's a shipping company, and they get into Super Serial. It's kind of like a little fish in a big ocean of lots bigger fish. They want to essentially go into Super Serial to try to win this prize money. And so they can only afford to hunt after just really low profile killers. And that's kind of the funny part of it. It's just the types of killers. So there's categories of killers that they have to find a killer for each category, and they're yearly categories. And so in this particular year, they have to find a Leo, a pet lover, so somebody who uses their pets in their kills. Let's see, they have to find a centennial, is what they call them, but that's someone who's killed more than 100 people. And let's see, they have that, a centennial. Oh, angry white women is a category, so they have to find an angry white woman. I know. Every time I talk about this book out loud, and it's so funny because I write it because I think it's funny. I don't know if anybody else ever does, but the last category is vigilante. The book is just heavily satire. It's a massive commentary on society and corporations and the way that billionaires interact with the public. Um, and it is a dark comedy, but it is more satirical in nature than it is like slapstick, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
I just can't believe it has a category. Find me the angriest white woman you can.
so that was my category. Like, I have like a, so that category is really based on a real person also. There, it's just this really, I don't know if you know anything about like Utah moms, but she's like, got 6 kids. She's like very proper, super Christian, like poofy blonde hair. Her name is Carol, and she's a distributor for a multi-level marketing company that distributes essential oils. Because I just have met I've just met so many people that would fall under this category, but I really wanted, so it's kind of a yin yang situation there because we have Big Montana Ice, and she's like this truck driving, I don't even know how to, like, mullet, loves beef jerky, and, and like really crass. And we really wanted there to be this juxtaposition between Big Montana Ice and then just somebody who was so scandalized by Big Montana Ice. And that's kind of where angry white women came into play. We just thought it would be the funniest category. And I remember at the time we created that, I was like, we have to have a character that is just constantly scandalized the entire time by all of these other serial killers.
I
Because we
love
know,
it.
yeah, we know that when people read it, it's going to be that same feeling of being a little bit scandalized, and we do that on purpose, right? But we thought it would be really funny to kind of channel that reaction through a character. So I ended up writing Carol, and Carol's probably one of my most favorite characters to write because she's just constantly in a state of being offended. It just makes me laugh every time I write. Yeah. I bet you didn't know you
Uh,
picked up something this weird, right?
no, I love every minute of it. Ever since I came, like I said off camera, ever since I came across your fun little jingle, I was like, I'm here for this. And then Kyle was like, I'm here for this.
it's
We're
been
here
such
for
a
it.
weird it's been such a weird ride. I When we started writing it, I remember thinking, for once I'm not going to censor myself or anything that I think. I'm going to put every weird idea out there and kind of see what shows up. And it started off as, like I said, a weird, funny little hobby, and I just love writing it. It's so much fun, and it just slowly, it kind of has like a following that's developed really low key and then just building and building and building until it became what it was. And we went from hobby to books to awards and then to a publishing company, what feels like in a very quick succession of time, just because people people read the books. It's kind of like, I think there's an undertone that is so close to our current reality that it's especially interesting for people to read it in the context that it exists in, because initially we wrote it as really heavy satire, and then as time goes on it becomes more and more realistic, and more it looks more and more like our world today, as and it's just the strangest thing how that worked out. But yeah, it's been super fun to write it. I know it's a really bizarre and twisted kind of comedy, but we turned out to have a much bigger audience than we thought. There's way more weirdos out there than you might suppose.
Oh man. Speaking of the horror genre, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Oh, I loved Cabin in the Woods. I can't help it. I know that's probably kind of a cliche answer, but I just love that. I love like Heretic. I love horror. It's weirdly enough, it's funny because that is the community that ultimately embraced us. It's not technically horror. We don't technically fit into the horror genre. Some people would call it comedy horror because it is horror-y, but
Mm.
it's specifically dystopian more than anything, which is a sci-fi category of book. But we knew going in that we're like, we need to reach out. The horror community is really huge on TikTok and it's super fun. And that is kind of initially who picked up our books to begin with. And then over time, it's people assume that it is horror, and it is, and in a way, but it's funny because it's never categorically horror. But I love I love horror, especially comedic horror. I get such a kick out of like old school 1980s, like that dark. Like I loved Gremlins. I
Uh,
still think about it. I still think about it sometimes, but I loved probably of horror in the horror genre. I love Cabin in the Woods. I can't. It's just so sharp and smart and funny to me. I loved it.
awesome. No, again, you raised a good example. The Gremlins is an example of horror comedy. I always think of in my to me Ash versus the Dark Army in the Evil Dead series, that third one.
Yep.
I always
It's
think of
kind of
that
like
one
a
as so
cheekier,
funny.
yeah, it's a cheekier kind of horror, and that's really what it super surreal ultimately is. It is satire, but it is a lot of cheeky, ridiculous horror because we really do just lean so far into whatever we think is funny, whatever we think is gonna, I guess, produce the biggest response. Just interlaced with so much creep factor. Like we have a lot of killers that do some pretty creepy things. We have like our pet lover, for example. There's a scene in the first book. People kind of they capture him knowing that the pets that he uses as kills are corgis, like little dogs, and he just has like a whole bunch of them. But they they drug they end up drugging the corgis by funneling orange soda laced with like a tranquilizer down through the window well of this house, and all the dogs drink it and they pass out because they can't kill the pets because they have to use them in the competition. So they have all these corgis and there's just a mass of them, and so they're really hard to fight off. And I don't know, there's this part where they enter to get the killer and he's nursing off of a dog, and it's this horrible. So like when we say that they're like in that song, when we say there's a character that drinks dog milk, we're dead serious. There really is.
Okay, okay. Thank God. I was listening to that song. I was like, I hope. I was like, I know she's got to be talking about actual dog milk because my mind went there. I was like, no, it's dark comedy. It's got to be dog milk. It's got to be dog milk. Okay, okay.
Yep. It
Thank
was
you.
actual. It is actual dog milk. Because when this particular killer kills people, he embodies their spirit in the corgi. So he names all of his victims after his corgis and stuff. But he's like the biggest like weasel, wanny, cry, sob, like have a mental breakdown to your mom kind of character. And he's just such a coward. He's really fun to write too, just because the dogs are really cute. But
Uh-huh.
in the second book, that's where he really shines because his corgis are just involved in so many like animal hijinks because they go up against all these other teams and they're in a big arena. And there's like, so we had to learn a lot of really weird animal facts for that particular facet of
Oh,
the competition.
oh man, Kyle would be so upset. He's gonna be so upset later. His ears are probably burned. He's like, she wants to know animal facts. I can tell her some animal facts.
Is he like an animal facts person?
He he does research for the show a lot and for his own personal time, and he has a ecology and field biology degree. So like he will find some like, and these are all true. Like he'll find some crazy facts out there, and he'll be like, "You want to learn about a fact about a cricket? No, no, I don't.
You're
Please,
like,
no."
absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, so he might have been I don't know. We had to learn about all sorts of super weird animals to see like what animals were venomous, what killers could actually use as a tool if they were to pick an animal. So we have that's in Super Duper Serial. That's the name of the second book. So there's Super Serial, then Super Duper Serial. And then obviously our upcoming book is Super D Duper Serial. Yeah. But there's kind of this thread in the competition. They're in a big, giant, like carnival fairgrounds type arena. And there's just all of these crazy animals that are loose in the arena. And so we had to look at like, what are some really bizarre instances where animals have like attacked and it just in an unexpected type of animal. Just so we ended up writing the beekeeper who literally has just like, I don't know, weaponized bees. that was like that was super fun. I don't know, it's been like a funny, it's just a really weird fun book to write, but kind of a bummer about the animal effects because we really are looking for book 4 material right now. So you'll have to tell Kyle to look us up. Share
Oh
his facts
Lord,
with
oh
us.
Lord, oh Lord. You'll get a documents full, like 20 or 30 page documents of any animal you want. He's like, I got you, and oof, oof, golly,
That's
oh,
awesome.
and then for our show Popcorn Buckets, we tackled a good chunk of the Godzilla movies, and he loves Godzilla. I'm just like, and he's flooded with facts of all the kaiju's, and I'm like, this. I'm just over here like, this movie's about smash car, dinosaur roar, breathe fire, run away.
Yeah, I think though that so there are people who read Super Serial for that exact reason. It's just so campy and silly and funny and ridiculous, like, and they're trying to like escape from a gorilla attack, and like it's just really silly. And I think there's a lot of people who read it just for that, and then there's people who really digest and dissect all of those like satirical commentary undertones. I think it just depends on the person. I like both readers. I think when people are like, this is really funny and I loved it, it was such a weird book to read, I love those readers, and I love them too. And they're like, can you tell me exactly what this specific character's motivations were in this specific chapter? I love both of those types of readers. I think it works the same with movies as well. It's like there's people who can gauge like the overall entertainment value, and then there's people who want to dissect the storyline. It's a good mix probably for you guys.
Awesome. So, getting away from the horror genre here, real fast. What is your favorite romantic trope or trope? Sorry, words are hard today. Romantic trope.
My favorite romantic trope?
Yep.
Oh man. I really like cinnamon roll types of male protagonists. So people I don't tend to lean, and this I'm certainly not an expert of the romance genre. It is so far out of my writing scope, but in general, I tend to like male characters who aren't like alpha. Like I like them when they're genuine and nice and kind and like really sweet to the female protagonist. I also really like abiding love. Like I read Love in a Time of Cholera, which I know some people I for me that's like one of the best love stories because it's about someone who falls in love and then it's abiding love. They love forever. I always really like that particular trope in the genre. But again, I am about the last person. I do. So a lot of my audience actually is like spicy romance readers because it's really fun. It was really fun for me to make fun of like spicier romance. You'll see a ton of videos on my TikTok about just really bad cosplay of like some lady with a werewolf boyfriend, or like somebody that's got like a big 7 foot tall alien lover. It's so stupid, and it's stupid in the way that like people love it because of what it is. it's like they know when they're getting into it, they can suspend their imagination enough to appreciate that. And I had so much fun with the romance community on Book Talk. It's like probably the biggest book community, and I'm telling you, those people are truly hilarious, and they know what they write, and they love what they write. I just I had so much fun initially on Book Talk, and they were a huge supporter even before the horror community picked up Super Serial. They were like huge supporters of our work, mostly because I think we our channel is focused on like fun, and it's a really funny thing in the book community to make fun of these, like, I don't know, the book talk community has some specific books that are just hyped to almost just an extensive degree, and making fun of that just brings me pure joy. So yeah, but that's my romance answer. It's not a very good one, I know.
Yeah, I know my wife, man. She's very big into the romance genre, bro. We've got so many from um, My Love of Akuska, My Toxic Marriage. I mean, she does it all, man. It's just like insane. And then like she'll read the Twilight with the spicy
Yes, I do.
vampire and then the aliens. Man, it's just hilarious.
I at least am glad that she likes fantasy romance. Obviously, in manga is a huge genre with a huge pull. Uh, yeah, it was. I don't have a lot of experience in that community, but I have more now because I'll have people that will say this reminds me of this, and I'll have to go look it up and be like, "What is this?" And it's usually like manga. Our cover artist draws for, we'll say, a pretty famous show. Um, I won't say what it is, but because I don't know if I'm allowed to. But he draws for like a pretty famous show, and I of course looked that one up, and I've kind of gotten to know that community a little bit better. I think it's super fun. I think it is. I think it's super fun. I when I have more, so I can't read and write at the same time very well because it leaches into my writing too much. But that's a that's a community I would like to spend more time in. I think it's really, to me it feels like higher level in a way, just like an additional, it's not shallow. So some romance fantasy has a tendency to kind of lean, and I don't even want to say shallow. That's not the way I would say it. It's like a beach read. It's like something you don't have to think too hard about. It's escapism, which I love. But I tend to find that some of those manga stories are like pretty convoluted and complicated and have a lot of elements and facets and points of interest and subplots, and I think that's a community I would really like overall. I haven't gotten into it too much, but I think I should.
On TikTok with every book that you sign, you always do a unique joke in the back of it or front of it. What's the origin behind you doing
I
these
might get in
cool?
trouble. I don't know. So I did a series online where I sign all my books with dark jokes. I have hundreds, like hundreds of them. I probably one of the ones that makes me laugh is the smell. I feel like you're gonna judge me, but it's the smell of roast chicken reminds me of grandma, but she tasted better. Also, I love the one that's like, what does a serial killer do when he finds Waldo? Where's Waldo?
Yeah, no, I just love all the blend of the seriousness of the show to, there's all those like wacky, kooky blends of comedy in it, man. It's just a fun read to have. What was your inspirations behind those, especially the comedy bits behind
Yeah,
Super Serial
super
Killers?
super serial has moments like that though. I love, so if I could describe it, I'd say that it's a combination of like the Hunger Games and maybe the Three Stooges and like Blazing Saddle. Blazing Saddles, and then maybe like, I love Blazing Saddles. I'd say it was a combination of those three things plus maybe like Deadpool. That's the way that I would describe the tone of the book. So it's like it's like the situation is so serious, but there's like huge. It's seen through the lens of comedy, um, and that's what makes it dark, right? Like it's the 1-2 punch. It's the misleading, um, lighthearted message that, and but underneath that is that dark layer of just really intense comedy. But there's so much absurd. I love absurd comedy, like what you're saying. That's a little more a little more like slapstick, I guess. I that stuff makes me laugh, like situational comedy. We have a probably my favorite scene I've ever written in these books is they're going after this guy called the stamp collector, and he basically kills people and preserves their tattoos in a giant skin book. Okay, so they're trying to figure out who the yeah they're trying to figure out who this guy is. And there's this scene where so we have a security guard character, and the joke there is that they always die, but they always come back to life. So it's just like a throwaway character. So every time Joe, the security guard, dies, he miraculously appears under a different name. So it's like the joke is there's a disposable security guard. It's kind of like a stormtrooper that just disposable in the story, but it's Joe and like Floyd are trying to save Ziggy, and he's strapped to this table, and this guy's got formaldehyde, drums of formaldehyde everywhere, and there's like a bunch of prosthetic limbs, and he's wearing this skin coat. They get in this battle with the stamp collector, and it is for some reason this kind of like bonking someone accidentally on the head kind of humor, like running in a circle and then someone pops out of a hallway and then they turn and run in the opposite direction. I love that stuff. That's some of the best humor in the world. Just be I love unapologetic comedy like that. I also love South Park for that reason, because it's just so unapologetic about what it is. We tried really really hard to not backtrack too far. Getting you have to hire, I don't know if you know anything about the genre, but you have to hire a lot of times sensitivity readers is what they're called. Finding the right types of sensitivity readers to read through Super Serial was really interesting, because it's right now I feel like it's difficult for people to really know what type of comedy is palatable, and what and where the line is between like I can tolerate this in this context, and then at this point it becomes too offensive, or who is allowed to make these types of jokes and who is not. And so it was actually a really huge learning curve for us, because um, I think a lot of times you'll think something is funny and maybe not necessarily recognize that the context is wrong, if that makes sense. So we had to dip in really hard to a lot of sensitivity readers when we wrote this series because of that. Um, I like old school comedy because I feel like it's a lot less apologetic in nature, but I think that comedy now is smarter and wittier, because people are really having to think about their jokes in the right context, and consider the audience of now. Like Gen Z humor to me is truly hysterical. I love it. I notice on TikTok, the best thing you can ever do is when you get to a truly funny video is to read the comments. I think there are so many people that are just should have a comedic platform that don't have one. And it's so funny to me because I feel like the humor has evolved over time into something that is just so much smarter in general.
I know, just especially working in education, man. Man, working with middle schoolers, this Gen Z, Gen Alpha stuff, and even the quote unquote uh, Gen Beta, man, their humor to me makes no sense. Like I could not explain to you why Skippity Ohio Toilet is so funny the way it is. I'm just completely lost.
Yeah, that so Gen Alpha humor is just to me, I have a harder time. I'll be honest, like I have a little bit of a harder time understanding, I guess, like skivvy toilet. I don't know. Like, I will say the vernacular though is on point. I Some of the wording and the way that they, like, just the other day my kid was trying to explain mogging to me. I Just the way that they described it is just truly so funny. And I do feel like different generations have different types of vernacular, but for some reason, like the end of Gen Z and early Gen Alpha, their vernacular is so hysterical. Like, I get such a kick out of it. I try really hard not to lean into vernacular too far in my books because you want them to kind of contain a little bit more of a timeless quality, because if they're popular now, they're 20 years from now it could be really outdated really fast. But I do my main readership is not typically Gen Alpha, Gen Z, maybe older Gen Zs, but generally speaking it's not. And so if I were to suddenly, we do have, I got to be a little careful, sorry, we do have in the next book that's coming out an influencer character, so that uses a lot of vernacular, like that, where they would use something like skibbity toilet in a conversation. I can't imagine working at a middle school. I don't know how you do that. I live with a middle schooler, and so my two oldest children are autistic, and I just got very accustomed to this, like, atypical neurodivergent style house, right? And then when we got our other kids, uh, it was a lot more of like a typical middle school experience, and I feel like I am in a foreign country. I'm like, what are you saying? What is this? I don't know how you do middle school. I have one middle schooler, and I feel like I want to cry.
If you could describe one song that fits description of your entire book series, what would it
Welcome to the
be?
jungle by Guns N' Roses. Yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would describe it as. I didn't even have to think about that. That came right out. Yeah, probably that one.
Ooh, that is a good choice, but could you think of anything like modern music wise to also describe the book?
Yes, it does. Something a little more modern. Um, I grew up, I didn't even know until I got to middle school that there was music outside of like the 60s and 70s, because my parents were purists. Like, really didn't play anything. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I don't listen to a lot of modern music. It's probably something by like um oh, I'm trying to think of the band name. It's not coming to mind, but they sing that song that's like, "All my friends are demons, take it slow." You know that song? That's the one. It's got to be something by a band like that. So I don't know. You can let your listener fill in the blank. I don't know. I'm the worst person. All of my music is like super old school. It just is. In fact, in our books, you can see. I don't know if you know this, but all of our books are our chapters are song titles interlaced with food. So, like, you can see this is baking care of business, and then there's like another one bites the crust, and we have like the Boulevard of Broken Creams is the opening chapter in Super Serial. We have so many. I Want to Bake Free, Cake My Breath Away.
And see, those are so many great titles and great songs, but I feel like kids these days just won't get the
I
reference.
know, it's upsetting. I don't think they know very many of those, just like classically so I wrote a chapter. I'm still salty about this, by the way. That's called Marshmallow Ledbetter. Okay, and we were in this big. We've been in conversations about these chapter titles forever, because even my brother was like, "What is that? I don't understand what the joke is." And I'm like, "It's Mellow Ledbetter," or like Baguette Down on It. Everyone's going, "What is that?" It's really funny, because I think if if somebody in Gen Z were to read these chapter headings, they wouldn't necessarily even know what we were talking about. Like the Boulevard of Broken Creams, like it's very frustrating. I'm like, how do you not know how clever that is? I've been really surprised just because that's something I always wanted to do with our chapter titles, just because I think it's funny. But we have, I was amazed at like how few people really even knew. I don't know I, what we were even talking about, but like girls just want to have fun. That's the dumbest song ever, but yeah, have fun. I was singing that the other day, and my daughter's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "How do you not know what this is? It's
Come on
so
now.
weird to me."
Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a great song. I love it.
I know she didn't know what it was. I felt like I had failed her as a parent. I was like, "I failed you. You, we need to we need to improve your music education."
You know, these kids may call us old, but we're old enough to remember Justin Timberlake was part of In Sync. Come at us.
We
And
did.
it's going to be them like 20 years from now.
Oh no.
Like the conversation you and me are
Like,
having, they're going to have the exact same conversation
oh yeah.
conversation
Oh
20 years from
yeah.
now.
I forgot about that. It's like Justin Timberlake was not a solo artist. They're going to be doing the same thing. Like 20 years from now, they'll be having this conversation and they'll be like, they didn't even know who Lady Gaga or Chaperone was. Oh man. I know I like Chaperone actually, but I don't know there's just a bunch of, to me it's like a different sound of music. It's a little more, it sounds a lot the same to me. I really miss the unique, I know this is way off topic, but I really miss the, like when voices were unique, like you could identify somebody by their voice instead of being like, who's this again? That it all sounds like Halsey to me. But I don't know, no matter what I listen to now, I feel like it's like that's Halsey, even though it's probably not. It all sounds like that to me. At least the stuff my daughter listens to. Yeah.
Surprised nobody's created the parody Pink
I know.
Brony
You
Club.
think it's a
So
given.
disappointed there's no
I've been
opportunity.
so upset that I still am upset that doesn't exist. Nobody's written Pink Brony Club. So if you're listening and you are a comedian, it's a golden opportunity. The Pink Brony Club.
So let me ask you this. What advice would you give a young author that you wish you had when you first started out?
Oh, um, I would say, okay, this is gonna sound like the strangest advice ever. But I would say that if you are trying to write something so other people will read it, so other people like it, you're going to struggle. If you cannot write with authenticity, you're going to struggle because you're never going to. You have to accept your voice as a writer and your ideas as a writer. If I tried to write something that was like I know that you get a lot of, I guess people get a lot of advice that looks like, well, go and find out what people are reading and write that. And I understand why. I do, especially if the objective is financial. But I think that if you want to write something truly good, you have to stick with who you are and what you're bringing to the table, because otherwise it'll be your voice just won't come through. And I think people are so afraid of criticism. When Super Serial came out, because we obviously have gotten plenty of criticism, especially because it's of the content and it's satire and it's intense. And I I think that those types of things people can take it super personally. I would say two things. One is stick with your actual, real, authentic voice. Write what you like. Focus on what's true to you as a person, and stop writing for somebody else, a non-existent audience. And then the second thing I would say is to stay if you to allow that criticism, the negative feedback to kind of roll off, because people don't censor on the internet. And especially when you, so in the beginning your mom's always going to be like, yeah, this is the best book I've ever read, like, or like somebody, after you sell a certain amount of books, or even on videos, if you get a certain amount of views, Kate, you're going to get criticism, and it's honest criticism. It's really what that person probably thinks, especially unfiltered on the internet, right? So I would say, if you can't let it roll, stop reading it, because it's not useful, it's not productive, it's not helpful. You can go and look up the best book you've ever read, and there will be so many negative reviews on it. It's almost hilarious, because you think it's just you, it's not just you. So two things: be yourself, let the criticism roll off. It doesn't matter, it's just noise. Because no matter what, the more people read your book, if you think you're going to be free from criticism, you're sorely mistaken. Yeah.
Being an author, did you ever have any interesting fan experiences or very interesting reviews on your book?
I had somebody say once, and I still laugh about it, because I think it's really funny that I would have ever, anything I've written ever would evoke that level of passion. But it says something like, I love the story, I love the characters, but the rigid writing style makes me want to gouge my eyes out. It's like, okay, you're not a fan, not a fan. But I've heard some really funny, especially because sometimes people will open the book up and think it's something that it isn't. And they'll start reading and be like, what is this? And it's always really fun to get those reviews, because they'll be like, I was so scandalized. And I'm like, there's literally, you should see the list of trigger warnings that we have at the front of the book. Yeah, it's like a page and a half. If you can't make it through the song, this isn't the show for you. And I tell people that. I'm like, if you can't make it through the trigger warning, this isn't the book for you. It's okay. Like, not everyone has to like what you write or like what you say. As a comedian, that it's going to be a mixed bag. There's people that really resonate with your work, and then there's people who are like, what is this? I hate it. I don't know. You have to kind of learn how to see criticism as noise, because it is noise. It's like, it's not going to help you do anything better.
I too also think that sometimes you just got to have a good sense of humor about stuff and not take things so literal.
I think so too. I think if you have a good sense of humor about it, like, we had a lady that was like, this is the worst stuff in the world. And I was like, it is actually, like, it really is. It's because it's talking about a lot of really intense, like, hard to hard to process kind of information, and that's what satire is. And I'm like, it really is one of the worst things in the world, because you're talking literally about serial killers. Like, what do you think is, what did you, and it's so strange to me, because I'm like, the front cover is a dude sitting on a toilet. Like, what did you think this was going to be about? And they're always so surprised. They're like, this is about serial killers. I'm like, yeah, Jan, it is about serial killers. It's just so strange. It's like, I mean, if you're reading a book called Super Serial with that cover, and then you open it up and the first thing you see is 2 pages of trigger warnings, like, turn back, man. Like, turn back. It's not for you. I don't think it's as bad as people think. Yeah, like, I'll show you. I'll show you in Super Duper. It's a little bit longer, because this is the actual games, but we had to put a line in for each content. So this is page 1, and then we have page 2. But basically, this is like literally how it starts out. It's like, this book is about serial killers. That's the first sentence. It contains gratuitous violence, extreme gore, death, and discussions about serial killers and their methods of killing. Which you're going, to me, that would seem like an extremely obvious thing to anybody who picked up the book, but apparently it's not. But it's like, it's I had to put in this whole explanation like about it's like throughout the series there are instances where characters who commit heinous crimes are celebrated in this fictional society. The purpose of the writing is to thematically address complex social issues and does not convey the author's personal viewpoints or opinions. Because I'm like, it's a theme, it's fictitious, it's a book. Like it's really interesting to see the kind of responses because people will read that, proceed, and then be upset that the book contains gratuitous violence. It's like it's the first sentence of the book. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. But I don't really get a lot of that. I mostly get people who they don't expect the theme to hit them as hard as it does. There's an emotional undertone that's kind of, I think, important. But yeah, anybody looking for something ridiculous, this is kind of the rising weird thing. Oh boy.
All right, last question for you here
Oh,
is
you mean
where can the
online?
people at
Sure.
home find you?
Okay, so we're in every bookstore that you want to go to. We're um we're we're not usually, depending on if you go to like a local store, but you can request our book be brought into the store if you want. We are online at harkermcnair.com. So HARKERMCNAIR.com. We're there and we're on every social media platform. So you can look up Mandy Harker, Harker McNair, or you can just Google Super Serial or Super Duper Cereal if you're feeling saucy, and just go, and then it'll take you anywhere you want to go. But you can buy our book anywhere. We're widely distributed. So
Well, all right, guys. And as always, you can join me on my podcast, the More Sports Podcast for everybody, as well as our movie review podcast, Popcorn Buckets, where we review a new movie every Sunday. And hey, don't get subscribed to our YouTube channel, Random Incorporated, where you can watch the video version of all these awesome guest interviews we've had. And then, hey, we're on social media. We're on Instagram as Rando Bucket Boys. We're on Twitter, Rando Corporate One. And now we're on Blue Sky at the Random Hour. McCrary, any last words?
no, thanks for having me. It was super fun. It was good talking to you. Tell Kyle thanks a lot. Just kidding.